In this video, I'm going to talk about how to find the fair market value of a bond. First of all, we should talk about briefly what a bond is. A bond is a way for a business or a government to raise money. The national government and national governments around the world sell bonds to finance government expenses. Local governments also do, so do state governments, so do school districts. Often if a school is building a new building, for example, they will sell bonds to pay for the construction of the building. And a bond is basically a certificate of promise that states the terms of agreement, which is basically says that at the end of a certain amount of time, you will get paid the face amount of the bond. Along the way, bonds have what are called periodic payments, which are basically payments of interest that accumulate. Oftentimes, bonds have face amounts of $1,000, but they don't have to. A bond could have any face amount. Usually, it's going to be 1,000 or 10,000 or 15,000. It's going to be a round number like that. You wouldn't have a typical bond that was like $2,873. That doesn't happen. It's usually round numbers, usually 1,000, 10,000, stuff like that. The term of a bond is how long the bond is for. And so bonds might be 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or 5 years or even 6 months. The end of that period of time is called the bond's maturity date. That's when the bond matures, or in other words, when it's payable for its face amount. So a $1,000 bond for 10 years, you wouldn't pay $1,000 for that. Typically, depending on how much interest it was paying, I suppose. You would pay less than that, usually. Some of how much you would pay for depends also on how certain you are that the bond is going to be repaid. If a city or a business is in financial difficulties and people think they can't pay their bonds, the bonds are worth less. Those are sometimes called junk bonds. Doesn't mean that they're truly junk, but it means they're less likely to be repaid. Bond prices fluctuate. They go up and down as interest rates change. Bonds are bought and sold at what's called fair market value. The interest on a bond is fixed. In other words, if the bond is 5% when you get it, it's going to be 5% when it matures, no matter what the market interest rate is. If interest rates become greater than the interest on a bond, the bond's value decreases, it goes down, and it's said to be trading at a discount. If interest rates, on the other hand, decrease, in other words, if the bond has 5% interest and the interest rates when it matures are at 2%, the value of the bond increases. It's then trading at a premium. So we're going to be able to do a couple of things. We're going to be able to find the fair market value of a bond. We're going to be able to find what's called the implied interest rate of the bond. And we are going to determine if a bond is trading at a discount or trading at a premium. So for example, a company needs money to expand its business. It issues a 10-year $1,000 bond that pays $30 every 6 months. If the current market interest rate is 7%, what is the fair market value of the bond? So I'm first going to show you how to do this by hand using formulas. And then I will show you what you should do, which is to use the calculator, which is going to be much, much quicker for you. We need to find two things. We need to find two types of present value. We need to find the present value of the lump sum payment of $1,000, and we need to find the present value of the $30 semi-annual payments over 30 years' time. So the first thing we want to find is the present value of the bond's face amount. And we can do that by using this formula, which is a variation of the present value formula for annuities. It's going to be the present value times 1 plus the interest rate, R, divided by the number of periods interest is paid, M, to the M times T equals whatever the bond's face value is, or we could say it's the future value. And then when we solve that, we see, oh, this is $502.56. For the second part, we're going to let P sub 2, present value part 2, equal the present value of those $30 semi-annual payments. And so here we have our full formula to find present value of an annuity. And so we plug our factors, our numbers in. We have $30, that's the payment each time. We call this the periodic payment. If a payment is made the same amount on a fixed schedule, like semi-annually, twice a year, or quarterly, 4 times a year, or monthly, 12 times a year, that is a periodic payment. Periodic doesn't mean random. It means at a certain fixed schedule, every month, every week, twice a year, once a year, whatever. And then we see R divided by M, negative N, that would be M times T. So when we plug this stuff into our calculator, we get $426.37. When we add those two values together, we get a fair market value of $928.93. So the first part of this is the fair market value of the bond's face amount, and the second is the fair market value of the payments over the time period. So this bond's fair market value is less than the face amount, so it is selling, and then from that we can find the implied interest rate. To find the implied interest rate, we add the total number of payments in a year. So 30 payments twice a year, that's $60, divided by the face value of the bond, which is $1,000, or the maturity value. That equals 6%. Here, that 6% is less than the market interest rate of 7% in our problem. So this bond is selling at a discount. Now I'm going to show you how to use the calculator to find fair market value. So this is the calculator screen you'll use for TVM Solver. Notice that there is the box by PV. That means that PV is what we solved for. This is what we got as our answer. So N is the total number of payments. So that's going to be 2 a year times 10 years. This was a 10-year bond, so that's going to be 20. 2 times 10 is 20. I% is the interest rate from the problem. PV is what we are solving for, so at first we'll leave that as a 0, or just leave any number that's in there. You don't even have to change it. PMT is 30. That's our monthly payments, or sorry, our semi-annual payments. FV is 1,000. This is the face value or the future value of the bond. And then P/Y and C/Y will both be 2 because the payments are semi-annual. They're twice a year. And then once the other numbers are input, then I scroll back up to here to PV and I solve for that, and I see that the fair market value of the bond is $928.94. Now this is a penny different than we get when we use the formula. Here we said it was $920.93. That's because of the rounding. We're taking something to the negative 20. We're dividing a decimal by 2. There's lots of rounding here. And so actually the rounding wasn't this part with our taking this up to here. Don't worry about it if it's a cent or 2 off. It will still give you credit. It's set up that way to understand, because different approaches will have a slightly different result within a few cents. Now, sometimes a problem might ask you to break it apart like we did it when we did it by hand, right? We found first the present value of the lump sum payment, and then we found the present value of the semi-annual payments. We can also do that on the calculator if you're asked to in a problem. So to find the present value of the lump sum payment, don't include anything for the periodic payment. Leave that as 0. Keep everything else like you did before, and then solve for present value. That is the present value of the lump sum payment, the present value of the face of the bond. So the present value of this $1,000 bond, just that part, is $502.57. Similarly, to find the present value of the payments, same thing, but here you leave future value as 0, and you include the periodic payment. Then again, you go up and you solve for a present value, and you get $426.37. If we added 426.37 and 502.57, we would get this amount. So you only have to do this if the problem specifically says find the present value of the payments or the periodic payments, or find the present value of the lump sum payment or of the face value of the bond. Otherwise, use this combined approach, which is faster. You might also be asked to find implied interest rate. To do that, calculate the total payments received in a year. Divide that number by the face value of the bond. So in our example, we had semi-annual payments of $30. That works out to $60 each year. The bond's face value is $1,000. $60 divided by $1,000 equals 6%. That is the implied interest rate of the bond. If the implied interest rate is less than the market rate, which will be given to you in the problem, the bond is trading at a discount. If the implied interest rate is greater than or more than the market rate, the bond is trading at a premium. Here's another example. A state issues a 15-year $1,000 bond that pays $25 every 6 months. If the current market interest rate is 4%, what's the fair market value of the bond? What's the implied interest rate? Is the bond trading at a discount or trading at a premium? So we're just going to use the calculator for this. And so what we have here is 15 years times 2 payments a year, so n equals 30. The interest rate given to us in the problem, the market's interest rate is 4%. The periodic payment is $25. The face value of the bond is $1,000. There are 2 payments a year. Then we go up and we compute present value, right? We go up and then we hit alpha, enter. And it tells us the fair market value of this bond is $1,111.98. To find the implied interest rate, so the periodic payment is $25. There are 2 of those each year, so that equals $50 a year. $50 a year divided by $1,000, that equals a 5% implied interest rate. This bond is trading at a premium because the implied interest rate is greater than the market interest rate of 4%. So read problems carefully, but it's going to be simply a matter of understanding the problem well enough to plug those values into your calculator and then interpret the results in context of the problem. So I hope this helps you find fair market value of a bond. Good luck moving forward. If you have specific questions, please let me know.